And I'm just sitting there, and like I said, this is now late afternoon, and the sun's going down below the mountains and below the volcano. I'm like, oh shit.
And you're an hour in.
We're an hour or two in, and I have no idea where I am. And I'm just looking at this little stream below me, and I'm like, all right, if no one comes back, I guess I'm drinking that water. Like,
What's up, everybody? Clint Esposito here with Crazy Action Sports Stories number 4. On this episode, we talked to Steve Summerfeld. It's with an S, but it's German. Steve, you might know from the Riders Lounge podcast. He also helps set up basically most of the Red Bull or even just Night of the Jumps, just freestyle events in Europe. Steve basically is one of the background guys. He also is a badass on a dirt bike. Did flips, super flips, performed shows for a long time. So I actually have never met Steve in person. One of our mutual friends, Javier Villegas, while I was doing the Two Wheels to Freedom podcast, was like, you should have Steve on. So then I had Steve onto the podcast, and we just actually hit it off and have stayed in touch periodically. And I've gone on his podcast, he's gone on mine. So once I started doing this project, I'm like, Steve's got to have some interesting stories to tell. So I got him to tell us about a wild, I don't know what you want to call it, ride through the mountains that goes wrong in a foreign country. Not even my foreign country, it's foreign for him as well. So they're in a small country and basically go for a ride out in the wilderness, and then it wouldn't be a Crazy Action Sports story if everything went to plan. So I hope you enjoy this episode of Crazy Action Sports Stories. My name is Clint Esposito. I did freestyle motocross for 16 years. During that time, I met some amazing people and had some wild adventures. This is Crazy Action Sports. What's up, everybody? I'm here with Steve Summerfeld, right? I try to do the pronunciation. So we're here for another Crazy Action Sports story, and you said you have a good one that, like everybody's got to limit it to family-friendly stories that we have.
yeah, it's pretty family friendly. Because that's the kind of content you go for, right?
That is on these days on this podcast.
Oh, you're a good boy. Oh, good. No, to be honest, when you said about it, I thought, to be honest, I have a really bad memory anyway. Like, I don't actually remember many stories.
You and me both.
That's why I normally take my wife with me everywhere, because she'll, for good and bad, she remembers everything. Like, but no, there was one that definitely stuck out in Indonesia. First time I ever went to Indonesia with Sheeny and Clinton, and things got out of control real fast at that show.
I would imagine. That sounds like a enjoyable crew.
Yeah, it was awesome, actually. It was the first time, like, actually it's quite funny with that show. It all came about because one of the best racers in Australia, Kim Ashkenazi, he was looking for some freestyle riders to do a show. And like, when I was a kid, like, I was looking up to him, like, it was just crazy. And then here we are going over to do shows with this dude. So that was quite cool to start with. And I was not flipping at the time. I needed 2 flippers and me not flipping. So that was easy. So yeah, Clinton lived a couple of hours north from me. He was up for it. Sheeny on the other side. I knew Sheeny had been to Indonesia before. So, like, if things get a bit out of control, maybe he knows how it all sort of works.
Indonesian?
Yeah, yeah, he remembers a few words. I don't think it's going to help him, but he does remember a few. Anyway, we got over there. It all started terribly. So where we were supposed to do the first, so it was a supercross race with freestyle, and the first race was going to be inside a soccer stadium. And of course, they've got good grass, and the people in this town loved their soccer, apparently. So much so that they were threatening to blow up all the machines with bombs and things like that. And I guess it was like 1 or 2 days before we were supposed to do it on the Saturday night. They're like, nah, this ain't happening. The police are involved. And actually, I think, again, bad memory here. So I could be completely wrong. So this is all kind of take it with a pinch of salt.
We're gonna have to get it
Um,
corroborated one day from one of
yeah,
these
I think we're
guys.
going to have to. Don't ask Sheeny because his memory is worse than mine. Probably Clinton will be the only one who remembers this. But anyway, the machines we were using, or the company was using, were from the army. And so the army was there, the police are involved. Okay, this isn't going to work. So they've already set everything up in the area where it was going to happen. And luckily, there was a block of land across the road from the soccer stadium, just a blank block of land. And so a couple of Australian track builders were over there. So they basically did it old school BMX style, like dug into the
Awesome.
ground, came out of the ground, dug into the ground, came out of the ground, and they made the motocross track. This is not even the good part. Like, this is not the story. This is the
That's
lead
cool
up to
though.
the story. As we were setting up the freestyle motocross part, you know, first time there, I thought I ate all the right things. I guess I didn't. We were measuring the ramp, and I think we got to like 15 meters using a little 5 meter tape, or 15 feet at a time. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, Clinton, nah, I've got to run. So anyway, I destroyed the place. That's still not the story. Anyway,
I mean, that's a
as
normal occurrence going
that's a
to
normal occurrence going anywhere, you know, and you just, oh,
have
and
ice in your soda, and then that's it.
exactly, same thing. And, well, I had to use my socks because there was no toilet paper there. Anyway, um, but we got the show done. You know, as crazy as that show was for a lot of reasons. I mean, I had a brand new KTM 4 stroke. It was supposed to be two. It was four. I didn't ride 4 strokes, so I jumped it anyway.
Mm.
I just got a speed check behind Sheeny. He was on a CRF 250 at the time, and I came up so short. We
I
had to
was
push
just
the
gonna
ramp up.
say it's a very
Oh,
weird transition at first because,
yeah.
like, a two-stroke you can tell when it's wound up, the motor feels
Yeah.
wound up, and a four-stroke just feels wound up the entire time. So you're like
Yeah.
barely over idle, and you're like, yeah, I'm
Yeah, this
going
thing's
so
this thing's
fast.
tapped. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sweet as. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. Brand new bike. It just felt like the thing was just flying when I wasn't. And I was getting speed checks behind Sheeny, and I'm like, I think I'm tapped. Like I
Yeah.
fuck.
No,
I
the
told
throttle just rolls more and it'll keep going.
Yeah, but I didn't want to click third. Like, I was getting a bit nervous, you know, when you go clicking third and then you just over jump and break wrists and ankles and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it gets sketchy when you're like in the middle of the gear.
Exactly. So anyway, I knuckled it a whole bunch of times, but it didn't matter. They were the ones that were flipping at the time. I wasn't, so I didn't care. We got the show done. So the mayor of this town that had it, the town was called Malang in Indonesia, and the mayor was so happy that the event actually happened. That despite terrorists, despite threats of bombs, despite everything happening the day before, and we still got it done. He's like, "Oh, tomorrow, come and have lunch at my compound." I love that he said compound. He's like, "Yeah, come to my compound and have lunch." Well, we turned up there, and it was like the best food you've ever seen. Like, outside it was, it was, there's a lot
Questionable.
of, yeah, it was quite questionable, but you get inside this mayor's place and you're like, oh, wow, this is where the money is. We had this awesome lunch, the biggest prawns you've ever seen in your life. And he's like, oh, actually, I do like motorcycles myself. And he's just like flicked his fingers. These three guys roll out these brand new KTM automatic clutch, auto this, blah, blah, blah. Like every factory possible option that you could find, he
Uh-huh.
put on these bikes. And I think from memory as well, in Indonesia, there's like a huge luxury tax on like, I think it's one of the most expensive places in the world to buy a motorcycle or a car or whatever. So it cost him an absolute fortune. And he's like, do you guys want to go for a ride with me? We're like, yeah, all
Are
right.
they street bikes or just dirt
Yeah, they
bikes?
were
Oh, okay.
enduro.
Oh,
They
okay,
were
okay.
the 450 enduros, I
Got it.
think. So he's like, see that volcano up there? Do you want to go to the top of the volcano?
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
hell yeah, let's go. So we go back to the hotel, grab our helmets, come back. In the end, of course, he had one of his good bikes. I think somebody else had one of his good ones. And then there was like 100 people from like the local motocross club turned up to do this trail ride with us. Like, we had no idea what was going on. We just turned up with our helmets, and
Right.
100 dudes sitting on there, clapped out, two strokes, done pang, 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 like ready to ride. And so Clinton, I think, had like some old school, must have been like 10 or 15-year-old RM80 or CR80 or something. I can't remember what bike Sheeny had, but it was pretty clapped out, but it was okay. And I was lucky enough to get one of these brand new automatic clutch KTMs. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
sweet, I've got the good bike, so suck shit. Anyway, we get a full police escort from the mayor's house to the edge of the town where the jungle starts. So we're just riding on the road and everybody's wheeling and having fun. And then we start this enduro ride. And it was about, I don't know, let's say 3 in the afternoon,
You
4 in
got
the
regular
afternoon.
clothes on.
Regular clothes, just, yeah, helmet and shoes, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're just riding through the jungle, and obviously we were the fast guys with good bikes. So there was one guy leading to show us the way through the jungle. Like, this is thick jungle. And so he's leading, and, just us three are following, and the other 100 are either behind us or they're taking different routes. Like, we had no idea what was happening there. And so we're cruising, and the guy's like, should I go faster? I'm like, yeah, go for it. Like, we'll keep up. This is easy. And we were crossing like these old rickety wooden bridges that should have fallen into like deep crevasses, and it was awesome. It was just fucking such a good ride. And where things got pretty hairy was after about 1 or 2 hours, we came to this super steep, muddy hill. So we all kind of stopped there, and everybody kind of, you kind of push your bike back a bit to get enough run
Right.
up to attack this hill. So I'm on the good bike. So I'm like, nah, you guys go for it first. Like, I'll be sweet. This lead Indonesian dude, he's hammered up there on his Jawa 125, whatever bike that was. And he got up pretty good. Clinton was actually, it was the best because he was on an 80. So, he could like lift the thing and move it around, and he got up. And then Sheeny got up and he was fine. I'm like, no worries. Fuck. This automatic piece of crap. Like, oh. So I'm trying to go up this hill, and it's just wheel spin and wheel spin,
man.
and I'm just gassing it. And then the auto clutch isn't kicking in right. Like, it was almost like, what would you call it? Like, kind of like anti-slip, like, so you don't do
Traction
donuts.
control.
Like traction control. It was like it had traction control as well. That's not working. And in the end, I just overheated the big girl. And so she was just
Oh my God.
overheating, laid the bike down. And I was just waiting for it to like just cool. But at that point, I couldn't even hear the other guys. Like, Sheeny,
Everybody's
Clinton,
gone.
and the lead, they're gone. Like, they've got to the top of the hill and they assumed I was behind them. Like, they've gone. And I could just kind of hear them. Okay, thanks. They'll realize, they'll come back for me. But, this thing should start. Like, it should kick over. Electric start as well, no Kickstarter. And this was in like 2010.
Like one of the
electric,
first.
yeah, like nobody even had electric starts back then. So it was like one of the first. And I guess purely because it was, I guess it was the electrics basically saying the bike's overheated. So it would not even try to start. So I'm just sitting there. Okay, Electric ain't working. You can't roll start it, like
Yeah.
drop it from neutral to first or neutral to
Because of
second
that clutch deal.
because of the fucking automatic clutch deal. So that doesn't work. And I'm just sitting there. And like I said, this is now late afternoon and the sun's going down below the mountains and below the volcano. I'm like, oh shit.
And you're an hour in.
We're an hour or two in, and I have no idea where I am. And I'm just looking at this little stream below me, and I'm like, all right, if no one comes back, I guess I'm drinking that water. Like because it was hot as hell. Like I had sweated so much.
How long would you say you were left
I was left
to your own devices?
I was left to my own devices probably an hour, probably about an hour, maybe a bit more. It felt like 3. Strange land, things have already gone wrong. Everything went wrong until this point. And I'm just looking at this water thinking, well, yesterday I just water shit everywhere. Sorry, this is a family friendly thing, right? So anyway, terrible back end the day before. And I'm like, I don't think I can handle doing this again. Like I already wasn't feeling good.
You're probably acclimated at that point. Just go for it.
I should have been, man. I should have been. And so, yeah, the sun had gone down. It was dark. I'm still sitting there, a bike that won't go. And then I could finally hear 2 bikes coming. And I thought it was Josh and Clinton. Like, you'd think your mates are going to fucking turn around. Nah, it was 2 more Indonesian guys. And they were like the tail riders, like to see if somebody's crashed or whatever. So these 2 guys, again, turning up on like 1980s 2-strokes, all 3 of us unable to, well, I can't speak Indonesian and they don't speak English. Like we're just doing hands and feet, hand signals going, bike doesn't work. Like, nah.
Still won't crank after an hour and cooling down.
Yep. Nah, still wouldn't fucking crank. And I'm like, fucking hell. Well, at least these guys are here. Like they can give me a lift home or whatever. And after like 20 minutes with them, stuffing around and trying different things and some bush mechanics, finally the bike had cooled enough that the electric starter finally fired up. Good. With the 3 of us, we pushed this thing, like revving it and pushing it. We got it to the top of this hill. I'm like, thank fuck. Like, I can finally start to relax now. Let's go. Like, I don't know how much more jungle there is left until I find the guys. I have no idea. So, 1 in front, 1 behind me in case I've got more problems. I'm in the middle. It would have been 100 meters and the main road was there.
No way.
I had no idea, like, because we'd been so far into the jungle, like we'd done, this everywhere. And I was 100 meters away from the road. And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
You never heard a car or anything go down that road?
Because it was so thick. The jungle is so thick, man. You had no idea. Couldn't hear the cars. Couldn't hear anything. We get on the road and we pin it. And so we were just riding on the road. We got to the top of the volcano where they had it was a hot springs. Man,
everybody's just chilling in the hot springs.
Everybody's chilling in the hot springs, eating hot potatoes because that was the traditional thing. Like, they're just eating hot potatoes with fireflies. It was the first time I've seen fireflies, and they're just flying around everyone. It looks magical, and I'm just like, yeah, thanks, guys.
Nobody ever.
Oh yeah, look, you were 100 meters from the road, so we thought you were sweet. We thought you went home, and I'm like, I had no idea. I thought I was drinking septic water that was coming down through the mountain and maybe eating those purple berries for the night. I didn't know what was happening. I'm like, yep, thanks. So yeah, that was my first experience of doing shows in Indonesia with Clinton and Sheeny, and they were not very helpful, put it that way.
That's awesome. But you made it out alive.
Made it out alive. And actually the funny thing was, so from that town, so the next year when we came back, we also went back to that town again. And the mayor, again, was just so stoked from the year before. He's like, if you guys want to ride my bikes, I'm not there this time, but you can borrow my bikes and just ride. So we did that. It was awesome. And it was like the best. It was one of the scariest times because you just didn't know what was going to happen. In the end, everything was fine. But at that moment, it was like you're getting into survival mode pretty quickly. And I will remember that day and for the rest of my life. And there was actually one of the guys from Indonesia who was helping the promoter run this show, Andre, and he'd actually been friends with Sheeny when he came a year or two before. And in the end, I became really good friends with this dude, and we were actually about to create a tour company in Indonesia, starting from this town and
Wow.
finishing up in Bali. So that was what I was actually about to do in 2014 just before I moved to Europe. That was where I was going, and then I came to Europe and I did freestyle here, and then I stayed here. So we will do it. I'm sure I will do it in the future. It's not part of the plan at the moment. Life changed, but it was like the worst day, but the best day, all in one. And yeah, I wanted to take people there and show them this jungle and show them how fucking gnarly it is, but how cool it was. It was such a good ride. So yeah, created new friends, like lifelong friends in Indonesia there, and it was just fucking cool.
And your like impression of Clinton and Sheeny may have changed that time.
No, it was. I let it go. I'm pretty quick. I'm pretty quick to let some things
Uh,
go.
it's funny,
Well,
just
actually,
they didn't
we're
know,
actually
they're like,
no.
oh, you're good, but how would you know that the road is right there if
Yeah,
you
like
didn't?
I had no idea, man. I wish I knew. All I could hear was that when I was getting wheel spin and the bike stopped, I could just hear them just like rah, 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 off into the distance, and I'm like, fuck, like. But the funny thing was, at the end of that tour, it was 7 weeks, and we just crisscrossed Indonesia. When we got to Jakarta for the last round of the competition or the shows, that was actually when I created Invert Management to manage Josh and Clinton. Like that's the me coming into this part of my life actually was from that whole tour. So yeah, with Clinton and Josh, I just asked them like, what shows you doing? What sponsors have you got? And I'm like, well, actually, I did a business degree a few years ago and I haven't actually used it. I'm like, for a laugh, you know, do you want me to try and help you guys get some shows? And actually, from that tour, changed my entire life. And yeah, managed Sheeny, managed Clinton. That was fucking crazy, as you can imagine. Yeah, it all kicked off a lot of cool stuff, actually. And funnily enough, actually, even now, I'm speaking with this guy Andre still because we're looking to bring Night of the Jumps to Indonesia, of course. So he's the guy linking all that together. So hopefully we have some freestyle motocross in Indonesia. There's a few really good locations I know of to go. So that I can hear. Yeah, I can hear. No, 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 I got you. So okay. Damn it. Damn it. No, that's all right. Fuck, how long have I been going? Hopefully not too long. Oh, that's longer than I thought. Yeah.
There we go. Um, all right,
We're back.
we're back.
Cut.
I'm
We're
back.
back.
Nobody will know that happened.
Nobody knows it happened. Yeah,
Um, so you got
so
scared for a little bit, but it set you up with some friends and some business.
yeah, yeah. It scared the It scared the crap out of me, man. I was nervous that day, but there was actually probably one of the best things that I took out of it all was I have a bad memory. Like I